في ساحة للعلم كنا نلتقي والحب والإخلاص
Assalamu alaikum, namaste, vanakkam, goeiemorgen, welcome and welcome to the Kurtuba Online Math Show presented by me, Mr. K from the K-Way Institute, brought to you by Hilal TV and Kurtuba Online Academy, the leading Islamic CAPS aligned online school in South Africa. Guys, welcome to the show. Assalamu alaikum. I hope you guys enjoyed our previous show, right? And today, every show is a continuation from the previous show, guys. Every show is a continuation from the previous show. In the last show, we did the exponential graph, we did the log graph, we're doing functions, and this is for grade 11s and grade 12s. Okay, so guys, we did the exponential graph in the last show, we did the log graph, we did the hyperbola with the shift, and you know, all this came out in your exams. And you also know, grade 11s, that all your work, or grade 12s will also tell you that whatever you learn in grade 11 is going to be retested in grade 12. So please make sure you master the content. Right, so let's get ready for the show. Time to attack math. Time to attack math. Do it for your country. Let's get started. We are starting today with the parabola. Okay, very, very important topic. You know you're going to get tested in this paper 1 functions. We're going to start with the parabola. Let's clear the screen like we said in the last show. I hope you got your scientific calculators. I hope you got your books and your pens and you can start working. And for those of you who want to refresh your memory about mathematics, never too old to learn. We got 50-year-old people, 60-year-old people still doing math. Okay, keeping the mind sharp, keeping it alive. So guys, let's get started. We're starting with the parabola. So put the heading there, the parabola. This is a function. Now we know that a parabola, a positive parabola, is a smiling face. Happy face, it's positive, and a negative parabola is a sad face. So let's start. What is the general formula? The general formula for a parabola is f of x, which is y. That's a function. It just means that the graph is called graph f. Right, so f of x is equal to ax squared plus bx plus c, or they might even tell you ax squared plus px plus q, or ax squared plus px plus q. Okay guys, take that down. That is your general formula for a parabola. Now we need to learn how to, like with all the graphs, what did we say in the previous episode? And if you missed the previous episode, don't stress. Go to YouTube, go to the Hilal TV website, click on the Kurtuba Online Math Show, and go through our previous episode item for item, replay it over and over and over until you've mastered all these concepts. This is a full grade 12 rescue program to make you get your distinction in your final exam. What's our aim? What's our aim? Not just to get a distinction, to finish the 3-hour paper in 1.5 hours. Yes, we can. Do you know what's the record, guys? Do you know what is the record of finishing a 3-hour paper? 42 minutes. Who set the record? It's my own personal record. Right, to get 95. I didn't get 100. I got 95. 95% in 42 minutes. I don't think that's so bad. Right, looking at your Friday's prelim paper, 55 minutes to work out your memo. It took me 55 minutes to work out the prelim Gauteng Friday's paper. So guys, 55 minutes for a 3-hour paper, I'm sure you guys can all do it. Okay, I'll give you guys a little bit of grace. I'll give you 1.5 hours, even 2 hours. That means you've got another last hour in your exam to practice and to polish. Let's get started. We're starting with the parabola here, given in this form. What do we need to know from our previous episode? We need to know how to sketch. And if the graph is given, how to find its equation. We need to know how to shift up, down, left or right. How to give the domain, referring to x values. How to give the range, referring to y values. Okay, we need to know where is the graph increasing. We need to know where is the graph decreasing. And we need to calculate coordinates on the graph. So these are all, that's the analysis of the graph after you've sketched it. So let's teach you how to sketch the graph. Okay, so right there, the parabola. Let's say the question in the exam says sketch. Right, so we need to sketch the graph. F of x is equal to x squared minus 2x minus 8. Now, that a parabola is always what indicates to you a parabola? The square sign. It's quadratic. So whenever you have a square sign in your problem, like this, so let me just put the square there. Let's take that out. Let's go here. Let's put the square there. So it's x squared minus 2x minus 8. That is a trinomial. That is a trinomial. 3 terms. Power 2, power 1, 0. Or it could be a difference of 2 squares. But for grade 11 and 12, it's going to be a trinomial expression. So in order to sketch it, let's say, what do we need? What do we need? So you can write it here on the side. In order to sketch the graph, you need the y-intercept. Where is the graph going to cut on your y-axis? You need x-intercepts. How many x-intercepts do we need? 2. The highest power will tell you how many roots it has. The highest power tells you how many solutions you're going to have. So you need the y-intercept, you need the x-intercept, and you need a turning point. Where is the graph going to turn? And what is called, where is the turning point, guys? On the graph, if we had the graph going like that, that value there at the bottom, that is called the turning point. Dunya, earth, the point. We're coming from infinity to infinity. We come down, we come to dunya, and at dunya, at the turning point, we can decide either we're going positively to heaven or negatively to, I think you know where. Right? So, just to tell you that that's the journey of the human soul. Okay, given and represented by the parabola. So if you didn't know where maths is used, maths can be used in anything in life. Here we just described the journey of the human soul using a parabola. In mathematics, and you thought the two are not related. Come on, think again. Let's go. So now, so this is called the turning point. So let's see all our calculations. So in our answer, to get our y-intercept, so let's change the color there. Let's change the color there. To get the y-intercept, we're going to say let x equal to 0. Okay, so let x equal to 0. So you're going to have, this is y. So you're going to have y is equal to 0, 0. So you're left with 0, right? 0 squared is 0. 2 times 0 is 0. So what are you left with? Y is equal to minus 8. So let x equal to 0. Y is equal to minus 8. What is that? That's our y-intercept. Now we need our x-intercept. So we say let y equal to 0. So let x equal to 0, solve for y. Let y equal to 0, solve for x. X squared minus 2x minus 8 equal to, instead of y, what are we going to put? 0. Now that you all know is a quadratic equation. You know, you need to factorize that. These are brackets. That's not an x. These are 2 brackets. So we got x times x to give me x squared. The factors of 8 to give me a 2. 4 and 2 to get negative, negative plus. So your first factor equal to 0. X minus 4 equals to 0. X is equal to plus 4. Or x plus 2 equals to 0. Solve for x. X is equal to the plus 2 goes on to the other side as minus 2. So there we go, guys. We got our y-intercept. We got our 2x-intercepts. Right? Y-intercept, 2x-intercepts. Remember, you got to show all this calculation. You get marks for it. Okay. Turning point. Let's go to the turning point, guys. Now, we need coordinates. Turning point is a coordinate, x and y, on your graph. So now, after you've taken this down, let's go. I'm going to clear all of this. Right? Let's clear everything. So let's just write it again. F of x is equal to x squared minus 2x minus 8. Let's say we now need to calculate the turning point. We call it TP, the turning point. Now, to calculate the turning point, you know, we can use the formula. You know, now let's change the color here again. Let's go here. The value in front of x squared is a. The value in front of x is b. The last value there is c. So it's ax squared plus bx plus c. So to get the turning point, to get the x value, so there we go, x value and y value, we can use minus b over 2a, right? So minus, what's b? Minus 2 over 2, a is 1. And then to get the y value of your turning point. I know what your teacher show you in school. They say take this value here and plug it, whatever answer you get for the x, plug it back into or substitute it back into the original to get your y. But don't you think if there was a formula for x, there must be a formula for y? Has it ever occurred to you? How come they gave us a formula for x? How come there's no formula for y? Yes, there is. Yes, there is. And the formula for y, let's just do it here. Let's erase that. And let's go back. And we're using the black pen. Right. So the formula to get the y value of your turning point is 4ac minus b squared over 4a. Okay, so 4a is 1, c is minus 8, minus b squared minus 2 squared over 4a. A is 1. Now let's use our calculators. Negative divided by negative is a positive, so that's 2 over 2. So that means your x value, 2 over 2 is 1. That's your x value. 4 times minus 8 is minus 32. Minus 2 squared is 4 over 4. So minus 32 minus 4 is minus 36. Minus 36 over 4 is minus 9. You can check it on your calculator. Right. So here we go. That's our turning point. Our turning point is 1 and minus 9. So what do we have? We got our y-intercept, we got our x-intercepts, and we've got our turning point. We now sketch the graph. So let's go to the graph, guys. There's your graph. That's your y-axis. That's your x-axis. Right. What was our y-intercept? Minus 8. So we can go minus 1, minus 2, minus 3, minus 4, minus 5, minus 6, minus 7, minus 8. There we go. Y was minus 8. Remember our y-intercept? Remember we calculated? We said let x equal to 0. Check your notes. Go back to what you wrote before. What did you have? You had y was equal to minus 8. So there we go. What were our x-intercepts? What were our x-intercepts? X was equal to plus 4 or x was equal to minus 2. Remember? Check. Go back. So 1, 2, 3, 4. X was equal to 4 or x was equal to minus 2. Those were our two x-intercepts. Our turning point, x and y. 1 on my x. So there's 1. So let's go here. 1 on my x. And minus 9 on my y. So if that's minus 8, then minus 9 would be there. So 1 and minus 9, and there we go. There's your dots. There are your dots, your two x-intercepts, your y-intercept, your turning point. We now sketch the graph. It's a positive graph. A is positive. A is greater than 0. A is greater than 0. So it's a smiling face. It's a positive graph. So let's go here. So we go from here. We go up there. And from here, we join the dots and we go up there. And we call it graph F. And there we go. Game over. Problem solved. We've sketched the graph completely. If you want to label it, you have to label this point also. This is your turning point of your graph. This was 1 and minus 9. This here was 4 and 0. This one was minus 2 and 0. And this was 0 and minus 8. And there we go. The graph is fully sketched, guys. The graph is fully sketched. You want to know what's this dotted line? That is your axis of symmetry. It's your line of symmetry. It makes your left-hand side equal to your right-hand side. You always put a dotted line through the x value of your turning point. So your x value of your turning point is 1. So we put a dotted line going through 1. We put a dotted line or jagged line going through it. Okay, and there we go. That goes to the 1 there, and that is it. Please learn the process. We don't need to do 50 examples of the same type for you to understand it. You take the one example, you master it, you see it in the exam, you copy and paste, you just change the values. Okay. All right, so that is the first turning point that we have. This is the first graph where it's given in this form, ax squared plus bx plus c, or plus px plus q. Plus px plus q. It's the same thing, right? It's just here that they call the bp and here they call the cq. That's your q value. Q is equal to minus 8. That's your y-intercept. Right, done. Graph is done. Let's clear the screen. Let's show you another type. The one that's given in your turning point formula. So a parabola can be given in two formats. It can either be given in this format here, x squared minus 2x minus 8, or it can be given in this form, f of x, and you all know a into x minus p all squared plus q. Now it's a square, so it's also a parabola, but it's given in this form. It's given in this form. So what does this represent? The p is your x value of your turning point. Forget about the minus. Remember, you're going to have to change its sign because the minus from here will change its sign. So if the p was 2, that means your x value of your turning point is at -2 because negative times the 2 will make it a negative. And your q is your y value of your turning point. So for example, if they asked you to sketch, let's just take that out. Let's go back. If they asked you to sketch, let's say the question in the exam said sketch. So this is type 2. The previous one that I did was type 1. You can label that one there as type 1. This one here is type 2. Type 1 is when you're given in a quadratic equation, or you're given in a trinomial form, x squared minus 2x minus 8. Type 2 is when you are given in this form, a into x minus p all squared plus q, where p already represents. This is given to you in exam. So P already represents the X value of your turning point, and Q already represents the Y value of your turning point. So for example, they tell you to sketch graph f of x is equal to x minus 1 all squared minus 9. Take this one down. So you can clearly see it's given in the form A. What's your A value? 1. Right? A is 1. There's it. There's an imaginary 1 there. Okay. There's an imaginary 1. So I just want to see if we can undo that. Hey, that goes. That works. There we go. Excellent. Right. I'm still getting to learn and master this new tech in this high-tech studio that we have here at Kurtuba. Okay. So here we go. F of x is equal to x squared minus x minus 1 all squared minus 9. Guys, what does the 1 represent? So the first thing in your answer, is you take out your turning point. Your turning point is given here. Here you don't need to calculate it. Remember in the previous one, what did we do? We took minus b over 2a, that was the x, and then to get the y, you check your notes, we had 4ac minus b squared over 4a, right? We're only talking numbers and alphabets here, guys. Some of you, I know some of your parents are sitting there and say, hey, this guy is giving me a bloody headache. Okay, but if you know what I'm talking, you know what they say? If you know, you know, right? Okay, so let's go. 1 and minus 9. So let's go here. My turning point here, remember I said change the sign because the minus comes from the original. So my p value is 1 and my y value is minus 9. Are you guys all following? Are you sitting glued to the TV? Huh? Grade 11s? Grade 12s? Are you guys sitting glued? Are you understanding what we're doing? I hope you are. Okay. So there we go. That's your turning point. That's step number 1. Step number 2, you've got to expand this. Step number 2, what do we have to do? Expand. Alright? So y is equal to x minus 1 into x minus 1 minus 9. So we expand it. So y is equal to, we're going to FOIL this out. You guys know how to do 2 terms. So it's, let me just show you here. Let's change the color here. It's the first term times both. And then the second term times both. So x times x is x squared minus 1x minus another 1x plus 1, because we multiply, minus 9. So this is equal to x squared minus 1x minus 1x minus 2x plus 1 minus 9 is minus 8. Yay! What do we have? We have exactly the same graph as we had before. X squared minus 2x minus 8. Now you got your turning point. You don't need to calculate your turning point. We brought it into standard form. Now what am I short of? I'm short of my y-intercept and my 2x intercepts. So let's go. Let x equal to 0. Let x equal to 0. So 0, 0. What's y equal to? Yes, you said it loud. Minus 8. And now you're going to say let y equal to 0. So now you're going to have x squared minus 2x minus 8 equal to 0. You factorize this, you're going to get x is equal to 4 or x is equal to minus 2. As per our last one. Right, it's the same example, only thing written in a different form. And the graph looks exactly the same. So when you sketch the graph, you know the graph is going to look like that. 1 and minus 1, your turning point. Minus 2 there, 4 there. And we're going to go up there. And we're going to go up there. And there we go. It's exactly the same graph as the previous one, just written in a different form. Okay, so take this down. Take this down. Learn it. The 2 types. So this was sketching. Very important, guys, how to sketch. Now we're going to do the reverse. how to find the equation, like what was given here in your paper, in your prelim paper. Grade 12s, in your prelim paper, they gave you a parabola with a hyperbola with a shift in asymptotes. Okay, they combined the two, they coupled it, they put the one on top of the other, and you needed to analyze it. Right, I'm sitting with your paper right here in front of me right now. Okay, but in any case, let us now give you the scenario that if the graph is given, this was to sketch. Guys, what was this? To sketch. So this is if the equation was given. So if the equation was given, we needed to sketch the graph. Question, that was your question. This is the calculation for your answer. We're now going to do the reverse now. Now, what if the graph is given in your exam, like what came out in your paper, and now you needed to find the equation of it. So let's go. Right. So now, finding the equation of a parabola. So let's change the color of the pen, yeah? Let's go here. Put the heading there. Finding the equation. Finding the equation of a given parabola. Of a given parabola. Here goes. Lots of content here, guys. Lots of content. Like we said, over the next 16 shows. Right? We're even going to be having some live shows coming up where you guys can phone in. We're going to put out a WhatsApp number. So watch our statuses. Follow Hilal TV on Facebook and on YouTube and Instagram. We're going to have a live show where you can actually send in questions. Right? It's coming up soon. I'm not going to tell you when, but you'll know about it. Right? Just follow. Watch the press for details. So let's go. Finding the equation of a given parabola. Let's go. Let's start. So now in the exam, let's look at type number 1. Right? So put this heading down. Finding the equation of a given parabola. Over the next 16 shows, we're going to complete the entire grade 12 syllabus, guys. Before you write your final exams, you must have mastered this. And inshallah, it's on the cards. Before the final exams, we're going to have a mass live workshop where we're going to be working through all the past papers and get you fully geared for your final exams. Okay, we'll let you know. Like I said, watch the press for details. Alright guys, so now we're finding the equation of a parabola. Right, we've got 2 minutes before break, right? We've got 2 minutes before break. So what I'm going to do now, I'm now going to give you a parabola. Those of you who know how to do it, during the break, I want you to work it out. When we come back from the break, I'm going to give you the solution. So, you know about it. You've been doing it the entire year. You have been doing it for 11 months or 10 months of the year already. So, let's start. Okay, so now I give you that. I give you this. I give you that. I give you a point here. This is graph G. I give you a point T. I tell you that point is 4 and 5. I tell you this point here is 2 and that point is -1. Right. I tell you that this graph G of x, they just call it G of x, is equal to ax squared plus bx plus q. Find the values of a, p, and q. Find a, p, and q for 5 marks. For 5 marks, find the value. So now, grade 11s and 12s, you know this. For the rest of you who are seeing it for the first time, you're going to have to wait until the end of, until we come back from the break for you to be able, for you to check how I work out the solution. Guys, we're going to cut now for break. I hope you guys enjoyed the first solution, with the first segment of today's episode with me, Mr. K, your presenter for Kurtuba Online Academy.
في ساحة للعلم كنا نلتقي والحب والإخلاص.
Welcome back, guys. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the Kurtuba Online Academy Math Show, presented by me, your host, Mr. K, from the K-Way Institute SA, in association with Kurtuba Online and Hilal TV. Guys, I hope you guys enjoyed the first segment. I gave you guys homework to do, and guess what? We just got in the Sakai paper, right? The prelim paper that they wrote. In fact, I looked at it right now, and in fact, exactly, I'm telling you guys, if you watch the show and if you follow the series, whatever we do in the show is going to be, it's going to appear. All these tools are going to be utilized in answering your paper. So guys, don't worry, we are on the road for success. Right, remember, destination distinction. Let's get started. Before the break, I left you guys with a problem to do. A challenge. Remember, there's no such thing as problem. The minute you say problem, then it means that there's no solution. But when you say challenge, then you know that there must be a tool to be utilized in order to find a solution to that challenge. Okay, so that's a life lesson, not just a math lesson. Take the word problem should be taken out of the dictionary. It should be replaced with the word challenge. So here's the challenge. This was our challenge before break. That was the question. That was the question in your exam. That was given. Now, where do we begin? In our answer. In our answer. And guys, remember, exactly the way I answer it on the board or exactly the way I answer it on the screen is a template for you that you could use in your exams. Okay, so we need the general equation of this parabola. So we start off whenever two x-intercepts are given, guys. Whenever two x-intercepts are given and a point, right? We can call this point here x1. We can call that point there x2. That's x, that's y. So let's start with the general equation. So in our answer, we start off with y equals a into x minus x1 into x minus x2. Right? We are solving for a. So we've got everything else besides a. Remember, in an equation, you can only have one unknown. If you've got two unknowns, then you guys know simultaneous equations. But there's no simultaneous equations here. Okay, so let's start. What's y? 5 is equal to, we're solving for a. A into, what's x? 4. Minus 1 plus 1 into 4 minus 2. Now we're solving for a. So let's do our brackets. We remember, we use BODMAS, right? Remember, BODMAS. Your teachers have been telling you that from the 1950s. BODMAS, we always do our brackets first, then division, multiplication, addition, and subtraction last. So let's do our brackets first. A into 4 plus 1, 5. 4 minus 2, 2. So 5 is equal to A into 5 times 2, 10. So we've got 10A. 10A is equal to 5. I don't want 10A. I want A. This is 10 times A. What's the opposite of multiplication? Division. So we divide by 10 on the side. We divide by 10. What is A equal to? 5 over 10. And we know that 5 over 10. 5 goes into 5 once. 5 goes into 10 2 times. A is equal to a half. We take the half. We've solved for A now. We got a half. We take this half. And we substitute it back into there. So let's go. Y equals a half a into x minus x1 into x minus x2. There we go, without the x and y. Now we leave out the coordinate, right? Because we want the general equation. What do we want, guys? We want the general equation. So let's go. Y is equal to half. We are removing the brackets. So that's x squared. X times x is x squared minus 2x plus 1x minus 2. Let's simplify. Y is equal to a half into x squared. We're collecting our like terms. Minus 2x plus 1x minus x minus 2. Let's multiply. Let's distribute the half into everything. So your final equation, f of x is equal to, or g of x, sorry. In this case here, it's g of x. So let's go. Let's go there. Come on. There we go. We go g of x is equal to a half x squared minus a half x, because we're multiplying, remember, we're distributing, right? Positive times negative is a negative, and a half times 2 is 1. 2 divided by 2 is 1. So A is equal to a half, P is equal to, so let's write it down. Let's write it down. So where's your A? What's your A? What's your P? What's your Q? Right, so that's your A. This is your P. P is equal to negative a half, and that's your Q value. And that's your final answer. A half x squared minus a half x plus 1. And there we go. We've got it in the form ax squared plus px plus q. All right. So remember, where do we begin? Whenever two x-intercepts, let's just do a quick recap. Whenever two x-intercepts are given, we are going to start with y equals a into x minus x1 into x minus x2. This was type 1. This was type 1 that you could see in the exam. There's only two types. One where the two x-intercepts are given, and yes, you've said it now. One where the y-intercept is given. Okay, hope you guys still focused. Hope you're still paying attention. Hope you're drinking your energy drinks, hydrating yourselves with water. Remember, it's a 1.5 hour show, jam-packed. We're doing as much as we can in 16 episodes to cover the entire grade 12 syllabus. So guys, I hope you guys are still focused and you are mentally strong. Okay, this is not for the faint at heart. So if you got a pacemaker, be careful. The show could be too heavy for you. Right, let's go. Okay, so here we go. That's type number 1. Let's go into type 2, where the turning point is given, and that's the one that came out in your prelim. Okay, so let's go. I'm clearing that. I hope you've all taken it down. Maybe my big head is in the way. Right, you've taken it down? Let's go. Let's clear. Right, we are on to type 2. Take a deep breath. Whoosa. Right. Breathe in, breathe out. Right, we're going to do some stomach exercise. Stomach in, chest out. Let's go. Right, let's start. Type 2. How's our guys in the control room? Everything all okay? I'm getting the thumbs up there. Alhamdulillah. Right, type 2. Right, so now they give you a parabola, but now they don't give you the 2x intercepts. They give you the turning point, 2 and minus 6, and they give you any random point on the graph, right? Remember, that's your y-axis. That will go to infinity. That we can call this f, g, or h. Let's call it graph f. And let's give you another point here. Sure, I need muscles here for the screen. Right, let's go here. And they give you another point here. And this point here, they call it t. And come on, let's give it a coordinate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's call it 8. And let's call it 4. I'm purposely choosing different values. Now remember, that is your axis of symmetry. X is equal to 2. Right? Your axis of symmetry, x is equal to 2. They've given you a random point, 8 and 4. And they've given you the turning point. Remember that there is, what have they given us? They've given us a turning point and they've given us a random point. So take that diagram down. What do you think? Right, again, they're going to tell you that the following graph is given by, so let's just move up here. They tell us in the exam, f of x is equal to a into x minus p all squared plus q. Find a, p, q. Right? They could tell it to you like that, and they say give the equation of the graph. Okay? You can clearly see they've given you the graph. They haven't given you the equation. So they've given you the graph. They want the equation. That's what they want. Please always read the question. Answer. Give them what they want. Not what you feel you want to put into the paper. Okay? That's a recipe for disaster. Right. We are back into math. Let's go, guys. Let's go. Okay, so that's a question. Find A, P, Q. In your answer, this is where you're going to start. You already given your P and Q value, isn't it? So we go Y equals A into X. What's P and Q? What is P and Q? Isn't that our turning point? Isn't that our turning point? So it's X minus 2 all squared minus 6. Doesn't it make sense? Huh? Doesn't it make sense? Maths makes sense. Maths teaches you logic. Okay? You need to be able, that is why whenever you're going to apply for a job at university, or whenever you apply for a job or you apply to university, the first thing they look at is your math mark. Why? Because maths teaches you logic. Can you apply a process to a given situation to get a solution? And can you follow logical process? Because they want to see the higher your math score is, the greater your level of logic. And that's what they want. They want people with logic. Right. I was going to say something, but I've got to keep quiet because it's TV. We got to make sure. You see, South Africa, we need skills. And we need logic in this country. Lots of things don't make sense to us. I think you know where I'm going with this. So that is why we need you. Your country needs you to have people with logic to be able to do logical things. Okay, let's go. Right. So we go. We are now looking. So we got our turning point. We are solving for A. We've got another point on the graph, guys. Where's our other point? There's our point. There's X. There's Y. So let's put it in. What's Y? 4 equals. We're looking for A. A into what's X? 8 minus 2 all squared minus 6. What are we solving for? We're always solving for A. Just think, always A. Always starts with the, the word always starts with the letter A. We're always looking for A. A is never given to you, right? You're looking for A. So let's go. We're looking for A. So now this is normal equations, guys. This is now grade 8. You need to solve for A. So take the minus 6. So we got 4 plus 6, right? Remember the minus 6 goes onto the other side as plus 6. We want to isolate A. So we got A into 8 minus 2 is 6. 6 squared is 36. Agreed? 4 plus 6 is 10 is equal to, let's go through it again, 8 minus 2 is 6, 6 squared is 36, so it's 36a. So therefore a is equal to 10 over 36, which is equal to, 2 goes into there 5 times, 2 goes into there 18 times, a is equal to 5 over 18. What is a equal to? 5 over 18. Can I ask you a question? Sure, Mr. K. Ask us. Is that our final answer? Can that be your final answer? No. You only solve for a. So now you put it back into the equation. We take that and we shove it there. We plug it in there. So what do we have? F of x is equal to 5 over 18 into x minus 2 all squared. Let's just go. We want to take out a few things there. So we go x minus 2 all squared minus 6. And there we go. A, P, Q. That's your A. That's your P. That's your Q. A is equal to 5 over 18. That's A. P is equal to how much? 2. What is Q equal to? Minus 6. Or negative 6. And there we go. That's your final answer, guys. That's your final answer. You got the equation of the graph. So we did, this was type 2, guys. What was this? Type 2. Type 1 was where the two x-intercepts were given. That was type 1. And we had to use the formula a into x minus x1 into x minus x2. We had to solve for a. After we get a, we sub it back into the original. We get our final equation. We're now working with type 2. And type 2 is where the turning point is given. And that was the one that came out in your prelims. Okay, this is the one. Similar style. Similar style. Similar style. So there we go. We're now going to go on to the inverse functions, guys. Now this is a different, it's related to functions. It's not a whole new topic. It's still part of functions, but this is exclusively for grade 12. But grade 11s, if you're watching and you want to advance yourself, remember you won't be tested on inverse functions, grade 11s. Grade 12s, this is for you. Now let's talk about the inverse. Remember in our previous episode, when we spoke about the inverse, what did we do? It was a reflection about the line y equal x, remember? Because we had to swap the x and y. And that was, the word inverse means the opposite. Right, so let's go. Put the heading there, the inverse function. So let's go in. So I'm teaching you now the topic from scratch. So now we go, what's going on there? Let's go. Inverse function. The inverse function. Now you can have inverse functions of all graphs. Inverse of a straight line, inverse of a parabola, inverse of a hyperbola, inverse of an exponential, and inverse of a log. Right? Remember the 5 graphs that we need to know for grade 12. Right? Grade 11s you only need to know until the exponential. The log graph, grade 11s, you don't need to know. That is only for 2023. If we make it, which we will, which we're going to get a distinction. Right? Okay, so let's go. The inverse function means opposite. Inverse means opposite. So basic rule here. You swap the x and the y in your formula. Here's your rule. You swap the x and the y. That's an and sign. And then step number 2. Yes, you're all saying it because your teachers have been telling you this the entire year. Make y the subject of the formula. Make y the subject of the formula. Now I'm going to show you some hacks, some shortcuts as we go along. Right? They're all approved. So whether you are Sakai, whether you are IEB or your Department of Basic Education, makes no difference. You can apply this in your final exams. I will never teach you a system in our shows that you will lose marks. So don't ever say, will we lose marks for this question, sir? No, you won't lose marks. I can't teach you something where you're going to lose marks. Right. So swap the x and the y and make y the subject of the formula. That's the inverse function. Right. Let's do it for the straight line. Let's do it for the straight line graph, y is equal to mx plus c. Right? Let's do it for the hyperbola with a shift in asymptotes. Hyperbola with shift. And let's do it for the exponential graph. And you know, the inverse of the exponential is the log. And so that's the first one, second one, third one, and we're going to end up with a parabola. And that's the one that came out. I warned when in our previous workshop, in our online workshop that we had, I warned our learners. We had so many, hundreds of learners online. And I said, please learn the last one. Learn the parabola. I told them. And guess what? I'm sitting with it here in front of me, guys. Ta-da! It came out in the exam. So listen to me. Okay. So the parabola. So these are the inverse. We're going to find out the inverse of all these graphs. So let's start. So the inverse means opposite. What's the rule, guys? Swap the x and y. Make y the subject of the formula to get your new equation. All right. Let's start. So let's start with a straight line. So now I tell you that f of x is equal to 2x minus 8. I want the inverse function. The question says, give us the inverse function in the form f of minus 1x equals. You know you've seen this in the exam. Right? Remember, inverse is to the minus 1. Right? To the minus 1. Whenever you see f, not f dash. Please, it's not f dash x. Guys, that's a difference. F to the minus 1 refers to inverse. F dash refers, grade 12s, to calculus, the derivative. So please understand the difference between the two. Okay, grade 12s, I hope you're listening. I hope your ears are open nicely. Okay, so let's go. Don't worry about this now. I'm just telling you, showing you the difference. Okay, so let's erase here. Let's erase that. And we're done with this. There we go. Boom, gone. Right, let's go to our pen again. Right, they want the inverse function. That's the question in your answer. So you know f of x is y. So y is equal to 2x minus 8. Right, I'm just going to erase that. Let's go back. Right, so what's the rule? This is your answer. This is where you're going to start answering. So y equals, that's your original. So what's the rule? Swap the x and the y. So x is equal to 2y minus 8. So that's a 2. 2y. Yay, man. These 2y. That looks so bad. That looks so bad. Let's take that out. Right. 2y minus 8. Right. So we swapped. Can you see what we've done? Can you see this? Can you see this? Right. Y equals 2x minus 8. So x is equal to 2y minus 8. Now we're going to make y the subject of the formula. So now 2y, let's leave the x here. The minus 8 will come on that side as plus 8 is equal to 2y. Right? Now we divide by 2. So we got 2y is equal to x plus 8. I just swapped the two sides around. Now divide by 2. So divide by 2, divide by 2, divide by 2. Here's your answer. 2 and 2 will cancel. Y is equal to, that's a 1. It's a half x plus 8 divided by 2 is 4. So that's f of minus 1. F of minus 1x, there we go. That's your y. That's your new graph. Is equal to a half x plus 4. Okay, building up some shoulders here in studio. Right? Half x plus 4. And there we go. So your original was y was equal to 2x minus 8. Your inverse function is a half x plus 4. And there we go. Right. Do you think, can we try something? You're going to try and figure out a hack for this. You're going to play a game. Let's play a game. Do you see a relationship, guys? Do you see a relationship between that and that? This is 2 over 1, right? Listen, we're playing a game now. We're playing a game. So let's play a numbers game. Come on. So we're now going to devise whether we're going to try it, right? We're going to play a game now. So how do you devise a hack? We devise a hack by making a hypothesis, by testing the hypothesis, right? And if it works with many others, then we can declare it a rule. So come, let's have some fun here. Right, so if this is 2 over 1, this one is 1 over 2. Don't you see a relationship? That is minus, that one is plus. So we flip this one around, we change the sign, and we divide this number. How did I get the 4? I divided this by that. Does it work? I wonder. You want to play? Let's play. Let's play, guys. Let's play. Come, let's make up one. Come on. Let's see. Come, let's have some fun. Let's say 4x minus 12. And if I apply the same rationale here, So that means f of minus 1 x will equal to, this is 4 over 1. It will become 1 over 4 x without the calculation, because it's only 1 mark in the exam. And if we can find a hack, wow, then we bosses here. Right? That's negative. Other one is positive. Then we divide it by this. We take this number and divide by that. Remember? So 12 divided by 4 is 3. A quarter x plus 3. So what do we do? So what's our rule now? We're flipping the fraction. We're flipping the fraction. We're keeping this. We're changing the sign. See, we're flipping the fraction. We're changing the sign, and we're dividing this value by that value. Whew, okay, we're doing some big stuff here, guys. We're doing some big stuff. Come, let's try it out. So now let's erase all of this. Does all of that come out? Yay. Okay, that comes out. That comes out. Let's take out that. Exciting things happening in studio here today, guys. Exciting things happening in studio here. Right, let's see. Let's do it the long way. Let's do it the long way, and let's see whether we can make a rule out of it. Right, so we got y is equal to 4x minus 12. So swap the x and y. X is equal to 4y minus 12. Now make y, x plus 12 is equal to 4y. So 4y is equal to x plus 12. Let's divide by 4. Y is equal to a quarter x plus 12 divided. What do we notice, guys? Boom! Boom! Bob's your auntie. We got it. So we just devised the hack, guys, from question to answer in one step. How kwai isn't that? How lekker isn't that? Only for 1 mark. So for 1 mark, why would you want to do all of this? I would say, apply the rule. Apply the rule. See, instead of all that calculation, which would take you the better part of about 5 minutes, why don't we just apply the rule? This is 4 over 1. We make it 1 over 4. We flip this. We change that sign. And we divide that by that to get that. And there we go. There's a hack. Beautiful. There's a hack. There's a hack. So what did we do? We flipped the gradient. We flipped the gradient. We changed the middle sign. Why do we change the middle sign? Because remember here, we took the negative over and it became positive. So we had to change the sign, the middle sign. And then we divided the y-intercept by the gradient. Divide your y-intercept by your gradient, by your m value. Done. Flip the gradient, change the sign, and then divide the y-intercept by... Otherwise, if you don't want to do this, if you can't remember this, just go ahead and do that. Right. I'm going to show you another hack with a hyperbola. This one I didn't know. This one we discovered now. We're working it out now. Try it out. Right? Try it out with others and see whether it works. And once it works, it's a rule. It becomes a hack. So let's go. So that is the inverse. That's a straight line graph. Y is equal to mx plus c. Okay. Let's now take a hyperbola. So put the heading down there. Hyperbola. Hyperbole. Right? Hyperbole. Hyperbola. The hyperbola. The hyperbola with a shift in asymptote. So I'm going to tell you h of x is equal to 4 over x minus 1 plus 5. I want the inverse function. I want the inverse. The question in the exam asks you for the inverse function in the form h of minus 1x. Right. Now instead, now we know what the rule is. The normal rule is swap the x and y, make y the subject of the formula. Right. But we're not going to do that. Why? Because we specialize in shortcuts and hacks. So what's the hack? In one step, h of minus 1x is equal to, there's the 4, there's the x, minus, there's the plus. So I'm leaving the signs. Notice what I'm doing. I'm leaving the signs. And all you do with this, guys, is you just swap the p and the q value. You swap the p and the q. So the 5 will come down. The 1 will go to the side. And Bob's your uncle. Done. Done. It saves you all the calculation of swapping the x and y and making y the subject of the formula. Right? If you do it the long way, you're still going to get the same answer. But if it's for 1 mark, why do all that work? This is how, you see, some learners are going to work smart in the exam. Some of them are going to work hard and some of them are going to work smart. You need to ask yourself, which one are you? Are you the hard worker or the smart worker? Ask yourself that question. Okay, so here goes. You just swap the x and y. There you swap the p and the q value here, and this gives you the inverse function. There we go. And if they ask you what are the equations of the asymptotes of your inverse, x will equal to 5, there we go, and y will equal to 1, there we go. Finish, easy, simple. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. We are done. Lekker ne? Is lekker ja. Ja, Mr. K. I hope you've taken all this down, guys. I hope you've taken all this down. Okay, now we're going to do the inverse of the parabola. Very, very, very important. Here you need to pay attention because this is the one that came out in the exam. Right, we'll just find out from control room also here. How many minutes have we got left? We've got 1 minute left. So now let's go. We've got 1 minute left before the end of this segment. Hope you guys are enjoying this. Right, like I said, brought to you by Kurtuba Online Islamic Academy, the leading Islamic academy online in the world. Let's go. Right, let's start. The parabola, the inverse of the parabola. So you know what's the most commonly asked. Come on, grade 12s. You've been doing it the entire year. What do you think is the most commonly asked one? F of x is equal to 2x squared, isn't it? Yes or no? Yes. F of x is equal to 2x squared. Right. So question number 1, they want the inverse function. You must give the inverse in the form f of minus 1x. Number 2, is the inverse a function? Why? Answer this during the break, guys. We're gonna cut for an ad break now. And how will you restrict the domain? How will you restrict the domain of f so that f of minus 1 becomes a function? And there we go, guys. We're gonna go for break now. Coffee break, bathroom break, whatever break you want to call it. Let's go and get some oxygen and some fresh air. Answer this question, grade 12s, and we will work out the memo in the last segment of today's explosive session. Guys, see you after the break.
في ساحة للعلم كنا نلتقي والحب والإخلاص
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back. Hope you guys enjoyed your break. Right, you part of the school rescue program proudly brought to you by Kurtuba Islamic Online Academy, Hilal TV and K-Way Institute. I'm your host, Mohammed Kota, aka Mr. K. Alright, guys, let's start it before the break. Before the break, I know it was a chunk of information. Guys, I've given you a lot of information in today's 1.5 hours. Remember, we have 3 segments in every show, right? 1.5 hours for 16 shows right through to the build up until our final exams 2022. So inshallah, we all destination distinction. Let's get started. I gave you the parabola. F of x is equal to 2x squared. I showed you a couple of hacks in the previous segment. If you missed the previous segment, go to YouTube, to Hilal TV. You can replay the episode and you can process the information, master the content, master all the processes in order for you to master your exams. Let's get started. So if you missed anything, don't stress. Don't stress. You can always go back and rewatch the episode. Okay, you tuned in to DSTV, Hilal TV, channel 347. Best TV station or best channel on DSTV at the moment. Right, let's go. In my eyes, that's my opinion. Right, so let's go. F of x is equal to 2x squared. We want f of minus 1x. In the previous segment, I showed you hacks. We devised the hack. Remember, we played a little game. We devised the hack for the straight line inverse. I gave you the hack for the hyperbola with the shift in asymptotes. I'm now going to give you the hack for the parabola. So let's go. The parabola. Remember, we're still going to do the exponential and the log. Very important. You're going to be tested on that in your exam. Right, so let's see. F of minus 1. I'm going to jump from question to answer in one step. Now, how do we do that? Remember, we say we're going to bypass. We're short-circuiting it. Right? What are we doing? We are short-circuiting it. We are jumping. We are bypassing a process of swapping x and y and making y the subject of the formula. Why are we short-circuiting it? Why are we bypassing it? To save us time. Common sense. Right? To save us time. And it's only 1 mark. So you don't want to do a whole page of calculation just for 1 mark. So the inverse of square. So let's go here. Let's change the color of our pen. Let's go there. The inverse of square is the square root. So you remember when you put a square root, you're going to put plus minus in front of it. The inverse of 2 over 1 is 1 over 2. And we took out the square. So what am I left with? X. And that's your final answer. That's your final answer. We short-circuited. We bypassed the system. We jumped from question to answer in 1 step. But even the short-circuit, even the bypass, even the hack has got a process involved. And what's the process? Square, put the square root, plus minus. 2 over 1, 1 over 2. We took out the square, we left with x. There we go. So let's try another one. Even if I told you g of x is equal to minus 3x squared. So what would g of minus 1x be equal to? G of minus 1 will equal to plus minus the square root of minus 3 over 1 will become 1 over 3x. And obviously we know that we can't have a negative underneath the square root. So we have to give a restriction for all your x values greater than or equal to 0. Right? It can't be less. In fact, less than or equal to 0. Sorry, for x less than or equal to 0. Let's go back. Let's say for x less than or equal to 0. Why? Because if I have minus 1, negative times negative will give me a positive. I can't have greater than 0. Any positive x values will give me a negative sign underneath the square root. And you can't get the square root of a negative number. It's undefined. It's imaginary. It does not exist. Okay, so for all your x values less than or equal to 0. And there we go. Question to answer in 1 step. Question to answer in 1 step. Right, they might even ask you to sketch both of them. So how will we sketch both of them? Right, 2x squared and minus half x. So let's do it here on the side. Let's erase all of that. Let's erase all of that. Let's see, does it? Oh, that was better. That goes. And I'm just going to put this here at the bottom. We're going to sketch the graph here on the side, right? We're going to sketch the graph here on the side. So let's change our pen. F, where's f of minus 1? So f of minus 1x is equal to plus or minus the square root 2 over 1, 1 over 2x. Now let's sketch the two of them. Okay, on the same set of axes, right? So let's go. So we've got that and that. Let's sketch f. We're now doing the first one. We go. Right, we're doing the first one. So let's go. F of x is equal to 2x squared. So there we go. That's your 2x squared. That's graph f. Right? In fact, let's not put it there. Let's write it here on the graph. That's graph f. Okay, so let's erase that. And there we go. That's out. Okay, so that's graph f. That's that graph there. Let's go back to pen. There we go. F of x is equal to 2x squared. That's your graph. F of minus 1x is equal to half x. Now it's pointing, you can see the V, my fingers. That's the V. It's pointing to the positive y. So the inverse will point to the positive x. So let's draw the inverse function. I'm going to choose a different color, guys. Let's do it in green. Come on. There's your inverse function. And that is f of minus 1. Right? The original pointed to the positive y, the inverse points to the positive x. So there we sketched both the graphs. So that's done. We gave the inverse and we sketched. Let's answer question number 2. Is the inverse a function? Why? Are we looking at question number 2? Is the function, let's answer it here. Let's answer question number 2 here. Is the inverse function a function? No. Why? Because for one x value, you got many y values. So it's a one-to-many relation. So the inverse function is not a function. So you'll say no. Why is it not a function? Because it's a one-to-many relation. For one x value, you got many y values, so it's not a function, right? It's the inverse function. It's actually what we call a relation, right? For one to many, it's not a function. One to one is a function. This is how you'll answer it in the exam. So is the inverse a function of the parabola? No, it's not a function. It's a one-to-many relation. So take that one down. How will you restrict the domain of f? So how will you restrict the domain of the original so that the inverse becomes a function? So let's do that, right? Let's do that. So we've got, there's your graph, there's your original, there's your inverse. We want to restrict the domain. So that means if I had a graph, the positive part here, if I restricted the domain of the original to for x greater than or equal to 0, right? For x greater than or equal to 0, there we go, right? Of f. So now what was f? F of x was equal to 2x squared. Now if we're restricting the domain to only your positive x values, there we go, all your positive x value. You only get the positive part. So obviously, when you're doing the inverse, remember the inverse went right like this. So now you'll only do the positive part. And that's f of minus 1. Now f of minus 1 is a function. Why? Because for one x value, you only get one y value. For one x, you get one y. So now it's a function. So how will you restrict it? Here's your first restriction. For x greater than or equal to 0. Or, you can even say, or for x less than or equal to 0. X less than or equal to 0. Why? Here's the x less than or equal to 0. There we go. There's your f of x. There's your f of x for all your x values less than or equal to 0. For x less than or equal to 0. So if that, now you've restricted it of your original. So what will your inverse function of this look like? The bottom part. That's your f of minus 1. And that's a function, because for one x value, you only got one y value. 1x to 1y is a function. So here's your answer. How will you restrict? So the answer to the question number 3, how will you restrict? I just drew these diagrams so that you could see what I meant. However, the answer to question number 3 is just x less than or equal to 0 or x greater than or equal to 0. And there we go. We've restricted the domain of the original. So guys, that brings us to the end of the graph. That brings us to the end of the inverse functions. Just to show you something else. What if they give you the inverse and you have to give back the original equation? Right? Let's do that. Let's wrap up the show. Remember, our next show is going to be dealing with calculus. Right? And that won't be for grade 11s. That will only be for grade 12s. We're going to start with first principles, derivative, differentiation, equations of tangents to a function, the cubic graph, limits, optimization, volume and total surface area, right? And in fact, something to look forward to the next show. You know, your teachers give you for all your standard shapes, you got different formulas for different shapes. I'm going to give you one formula that you can use for all your standard shapes. You'll always get your answer right. Okay, so I hope you're enjoying the Kurtuba online math show. Okay, so I'm erasing this, guys. I'm erasing this. Watch this. And this is the one that came out in the matric prelim paper, right? Something similar. So they give you a graph. They give you that. They tell you this is, say, g of minus 1, x, right? And they tell you that g of minus 1x, g of minus 1x is equal to, this is the inverse of a negative graph, right? And it's only the negative part. So it's the negative part. It's the negative part of the negative original. So minus, let's say, minus 1 over 4x. Right. They give you this. Find g of x with restrictions. The question is, find the original graph, g of x with restrictions. Now you need to pay attention. Find g of x with restrictions. So let's say that's given to you. G of minus 1x is the negative part of the negative original. So remember, what does, so let's do this. Watch this. Pay attention and pay attention carefully. This sign in the front is your restriction. That sign represents your restriction. That sign underneath tells you whether the original graph was positive or negative. Can you see? The sign in the front, is going to tell us our restriction. The sign inside is going to tell us whether the original was positive or negative. So now let's answer this question, guys. Let's answer this question. Okay, so find g of x. They've given us the inverse. They want the original. Now, you know, what would the original look like? Just to show you. This is a negative part of the, so basically it's a negative inverse, right? That means your original graph was a negative parabola, right? Because it's going towards the negative side. So it's the original was negative. And it's the negative part of it. So the negative part of this, that means we've got to erase all of this. That must all come out. And that's what your graph looks like. That's what your original graph G, this is what your original graph G looks like. Right? This is the inverse. And that's the original. Can you see how we got that? This was the negative part. This was the negative inverse, so the original was negative, but they've restricted it. They've only given you the negative part, so you only do the negative part. Now, how do we give its equation? So g of x is equal to, that one gives the restriction. So the original is negative, right? The sign inside tells me that my original is negative. This is 1 over 4, so this must be 4x squared. There we go. We're now doing the reverse. We're now working backwards, right? Minus 4x squared. And what's your restriction? Negative for x less than or equal to 0. What's the restriction? That's your restriction. A negative restriction for a negative graph. Negative restriction for a negative graph. Why? Because you had a negative inverse, or you had the negative part of a negative inverse. Okay? You had a negative part of a negative inverse, so you've got to give the negative restriction for a negative original. Okay, makes sense? I hope it's making sense. Guys, I hope it's making sense. Let's do another example of this. We've got a couple of minutes left before we wrap up today's show. Right, so I give you this, and I give you that. And I tell you this is f of minus 1. And I tell you that f of minus 1x is equal to, this is the negative part, this is the negative inverse of the positive original, 1 over 5x. So that's the equation. That's given in the exam. They want f of x. Find f of x, the original, with restriction. So exactly what I showed you in the previous one. Let's see whether we can apply to this one to finalize and to wrap up today's show. Okay, so we got f of x is equal to, let's go. We've got square, so it's going to be something x squared, right? Something x squared. We got 1 over 5, so this must be 5x squared. So f of x is equal to 5x squared, right? For x. Now remember that this is the negative part. This is the negative part of the positive graph. So it's the positive graph. It's the positive original. The positive original went there. It's the positive, it's the negative part of the positive original. So basically, what are we doing here? Remember, this graph here is f of minus 1, and its inverse is the negative part of the positive. The whole graph is positive. The whole graph, f is positive. But we're looking at the negative part of it for x less than or equal to 0. And there we go, guys. And that brings us to the end of today's session. I hope you guys enjoyed these 3-part segments. Go to Hilal TV. Go and watch it on YouTube. And the repeats are on Saturday mornings and Sunday mornings. You can go to the Hilal TV website. You can check the times of all our shows. Remember, every Tuesdays and Thursdays are new shows. Saturdays and Sundays are repeats of the week shows. And if you don't catch it, if you don't have DSTV, then go to Hilal TV on the internet, on the web, or on YouTube, and go and replay the show. Right, so I hope you guys enjoyed this. This is the end of our segment. Remember, we're starting with calculus next. And hope you guys practice on this. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. And that's it from me, Mr. K from the K-Way Institute for Qurtuba Online Academy and Hilal TV. Right, see you guys again. God bless. And may Allah make your journey easy as possible. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
في ساحة للعلم كنا نلتقي والحب